My name is Sabrina. I love to discover interesting stories and traditions. Today, I will tell you about an ancient Spanish legend from the 14th century, and it takes place in the beautiful Alhambra Palace in Granada, in Spain. In those ancient times, there lived an Arabian princess whose name was Thyra. She lived with her father, the king. The princess wore a necklace that had belonged to her mother. It was her most precious possession. One year, Princess Thyra and her father traveled to Granada, where they stayed at the Alhambra Palace. They were accompanied and protected by a group of 11 loyal soldiers who were trusted by the king. Now, it's interesting to note that the king was very strict and unfriendly, but somehow he got on very well with those 11 soldiers. They were really good friends. They were always laughing and joking together. Princess Thyra felt very lonely because her father didn't allow her to meet people or to have any friends, so she spent most of her time alone in a sunny courtyard in the palace grounds. It was a beautiful courtyard with fountains and lovely plants and trees. One day, a young man called Arturo was visiting the palace. He saw the princess and they started to chat.
Su Alteza Real, buenos días. Me llamo Arturo.
Every time he visited, he would go to the patio where he would find Princess Thyra, and they would spend time chatting together. They became good friends. Eventually, the king found out about Arturo, and he was not at all pleased that his daughter had been meeting him.
Ese hombre es un sinvergüenza.
So he sent his 11 trusted men to find Arturo and arrest him. They found him and locked him up in the dungeons. Poor Arturo! He had done nothing wrong. He could not understand why he was thrown into prison just for speaking to the princess. And Princess Thyra wasn't happy about it either. Her one and only friend had been taken away from her. It was so unfair. So she went to find her father, the king, to complain about this situation. She entered the king's private room, but he was nowhere to be found. However, on the table there was a diary. One page in particular caught her attention. Written in the king's handwriting, there was a message.
Con mis 11 guerreros he matado al rey y a la reina y he logrado ocupar el trono. De la princesa me he apiadado y creerá para siempre que soy su padre.
The king was not her father, so he was not the true king. He had stolen that royal title. And even worse, Princess Thyra had lost her real parents, all because of this horrid man and his 11 horrid friends. Now, you're perhaps thinking that she would be far too scared, all on her own, to confront the king and his strong, brave men. But actually, that was not the case. Remember that I mentioned earlier that the princess wore a special necklace that was a gift from her mother. It had belonged to her mother's family for generations, and it had special, magical powers. One of those special powers was to protect Princess Thyra, to defend her when necessary. So, accompanied by the magical power of her necklace, she suddenly felt immensely courageous. With the brave heart of a lion, she approached the false, wicked king and his soldiers, who were all to be found in her favorite place, the patio. They all turned to look at her. They could see that she was angry about something. They found it funny and started to laugh.
He descubierto la verdad. Tú no eres mi verdadero padre. Yo sé lo que hiciste.
At that very moment, the necklace began to shine in a mysterious way. The 12 men stood in silence, overwhelmed by the bright light. Then they were turned into stone, into 12 stone lions. The necklace had completed its work. It had protected Thyra and had taught those 12 villains a very big lesson. And what about poor Arturo, who was locked in a dungeon? Well, Princess Thyra released him, and then they ran away together and lived happily ever after. What a great end to the story! If ever you visit the Alhambra Palace, you will see the 12 stone lions in the very same courtyard where this magical event happened. This place is known as the Court of the Lions. In Spanish, it is El Patio de los Leones. The 12 lions stand in a circle, supporting a stone fountain called the Fountain of the Lions. In Spanish, it's La Fuente de los Leones. For centuries, those 12 villains have been carrying the enormous weight of that fountain. trapped forever as stone lions. Whilst Thyra and Arturo found freedom, happiness, and, most importantly, justice. I do hope you enjoyed listening to the Spanish legend of the 12 Lions. I'll be back soon with another interesting story. So until then, I'll say goodbye.